Hi, everybody. I am loving this Vivaldi. It's one of my favorite things. Excellent. If you are just joining us on the replay, welcome. Hope you're all doing well out there. My name is Angela Young Smucker, and welcome to TCB Tuesday. It is a day for meeting one of our artists, and this is actually part 2 in a discussion with our artistic director, Rubén Dubrovsky. And I just couldn't help but share that WFMT video that we did a couple of years ago. This was Rubén's pick from our first conversation a month ago now. This has now been a month we've been doing this online web series for you all, and I've been having a great time. I hope you have. So just a reminder, Third Coast Baroque is a Baroque ensemble, an early music ensemble from Chicago, Illinois. And our mission is to share the aesthetic of Baroque music while unlocking its relevance for today's audiences. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about making connections, about building context. We're going to continue to explore what this means. In the meantime, I just want to remind you that you can follow us, find us, subscribe. You can go to our website and get all the information that you need at thirdcoastbaroque.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. If you're on Facebook or YouTube right now watching us, make sure to say hi in the comments. Hi, John. Look who's back. He's here every time. Gotta love it. John Sagos is our Third Coast Baroque Board President. So good to see you, my friend. But without further ado, I'm very excited to welcome my friend and colleague, Rubén Dubrovsky. One moment. There he is. Hello, Rubén.
Hello, Angela.
How are you, my friend?
Very well. It's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, well, welcome back. We had a really fun conversation last time. That was our first foray into our live stream experience. So how's the last month been for you?
Very intense, working a lot, not boring at all.
Of course not. Of course not. So what have you been working on?
Well, probably is finding solutions, trying to find solutions for different challenges that we all know. Some of these challenges are, dealing with, let's call it, with the past, dealing with those performances that we couldn't do. With Third Coast Baroque, with my other ensemble in Vienna, the Bach Consort, with those ensembles where I work as a guest conductor, like with some opera houses. And, this trying to from one side, to think of the artists who had been taking part of those concerts, and of course they couldn't do their work. They couldn't get a payment, and these are things that we all have to think about very carefully.
Right.
And from the other side, dealing with rescheduling of that what is possible, or thinking what to do with things that cannot be rescheduled because of the complexity. Well, that's all one part of my work. I am very much thinking about what is next season going to look like, because that is very possible that it will not be a normal concerts and opera season, that we will have some challenges to deal with. How will people be allowed or not to perform, to join a concert physically? The whole making art through the internet deal.
Yes, that's actually a question I'd really like to get into. We have, we're all paying attention to what is being mandated in our own areas in terms of public gatherings. In Chicago, the Grant Park Music Festival just announced this week that it will be canceling its entire summer season for the first time. And it's quite a major blow to summer activities. And so, I mean, the hundreds and thousands of people who are affected by that festival, not only as audience members, but as performers. And so now we're all sort of reevaluating what can we do instead. A lot of people are talking about being able to get back in the concert hall in the fall, maybe at 25%. I'm in Florida right now, and we're slowly reopening the state already. Some restaurants are allowed to operate in their dining rooms at 25% capacity. But if we have a concert hall at 25%, that means not everyone is able to attend. So my question is, how would you like audiences to approach this combination of live and online performances as we move through this pandemic now, and as we go into it next season and in the year to come? How would you like them to think about it, to experience it?
Well, this, let's call it crisis that we are living right now, is forcing everyone in most of the aspect of our life to do things in a different way that what we have been choosing to do now, different than what we have been doing just because we thought that's the way to do things, and that includes, of course, performing arts. I think that there will be a transition period, which for arts may be quite long, I believe, where we will be looking at solutions, for compromises, for finding a new normality, even if it's for that period of time. So I think it is helpful not to think so much about how to get it as close as possible at what we are used to, because that's would only bring us frustration. I think I would say the other way around. Right now, we are not allowed to go out and perform. We can do our own little things from home, and that's sometimes also fun. But in the moment that we say, okay, artists are allowed to, first of all, get together and rehearse and perform together, that's a huge thing, and I am looking so much forward to that, to get together with musicians on a stage, in a room, and rehearse. And then, in the moment we perform, I hope that an audience will be there. In how many people are allowed? Well, as many as are allowed. I think it is very important for performance to play for an audience physically being there, if possible. And I think that adds a lot also of intensity to that performance for those people who are seeing it through a stream. And of course, we take what is possible. It's like after, if I think of here in Vienna, where I live, days after the end of the Second World War, they were performing again at the Vienna State Opera. And of course, we can be sure the orchestra wasn't complete. Right. The costumes didn't look as great as they should, but it's not about that. So right. I think that instead of looking for perfect condition, it's just being as authentic as possible in the transmission and in the reception of arts.
Yeah, I mean, I saw already the Berlin Philharmonic? They did a performance the other day to an empty concert hall with the musicians socially distanced on the stage. And I know that there are artists out there who, have concerns about the safety of their health going on stage. And so this is also something not only in terms of an audience participation in this live event that, up to this point, we've kind of taken for granted the access to this kind of experience. But the artists want to make sure that they're also in a safe environment. And, singers, we spew a lot of stuff.
Yes.
So it's something to think about. Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting because I have actually seen the broadcast of that concert live. And I have to admit that to that moment, I thought, okay, like performing on video and then that people can see that, like our Vivaldi that you showed at the beginning of this talk. I think that's nice. And I thought, okay, the fact is it actually happening live in that moment or not, I really thought it wasn't that important for me. And it was very interesting to see that Berlin Philharmonic video because it was produced before for whichever reason, which may be a very good reason. And so that the conductor was having an interview in between, and the break between the pieces wasn't that long, with musicians going in and out, painfully trying to keep a safe distance. And I thought, oh my God, actually, I would have enjoyed to see that, to be a part of it really in the moment. And I would have preferred to wait 5 minutes until this chair can be moved and then they change places and really be
those are all there. Things that you experience in the concert hall.
Yes. So, the interesting thing was I thought I didn't care about that. I thought I want to see good arts. If it is live or if I am seeing it 1 hour later or 1 day or 1 year later, I thought I wouldn't care. And I have to admit I did care.
Well, okay, but so let's just talk about this performance for a second because I haven't been able to see it yet. But that was pre-recorded and edited, correct?
Maybe it wasn't even edited in terms of making it better. Maybe it just playing the 3 pieces, but shortening the places in between. Right. Maybe they wanted to have 2 different shots and then choose the best one. And I'm not blaming it at all, but my reaction of knowing that, okay, I am not just there. I knew that from sports. I love seeing some sports live, but to see a play after it was played is okay. If it's a great game, you do. But basically, there is something about knowing it is happening in that very moment.
Yeah,
and
so
I had to. Experience. Yes, so for me, it helps me also to rethink as much as possible that if we are going to perform in the future and there are going to be broadcasts of that, I think that the fact that it is live, with all the artistical and technical risk of that thing, but I think it has some honesty that it is very valuable, very important.
Well, there's something about the aspect of space. You know, when the music is given space, we have those moments before and after a piece begins where everything just gets still, where everyone before a piece is at a moment of attention, at a moment of focus, then we breathe together and begin. And then we experience that sound world, that moment, and then it comes to a close. And I love this. This was my experience in Europe when I was performing there in a concert, that Europeans are incredibly reverent when it comes to the end of a piece before they start to applaud. They are very well trained. They do not start until the conductor's hands are down.
Sometimes you are down and they still wait for 5 minutes. It's sometimes too much for me.
Oh my gosh, that happened to me in Salzburg years ago, and it was just the most mortifying thing. I mean, it was like minutes going by. I'm like, okay. No, but that aspect of space and that communal experience of silence or anticipation when you're watching something. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I love watching a movie. It is an edited, produced piece of entertainment, right? A piece of art, and it is shaped in such a way to evoke an experience and to evoke certain emotions. And when we're in a concert, we program things in a certain way because we want to try and reveal aspects of the piece. We want to encourage a kind of experience. But we have this communal experience of silence and space in those live concert halls. Now everybody is sitting inside their homes, you know, they've got their laptop in bed with them, or, you know, they're watching it on their 70-inch screen television at home. And it's hard to have that communal experience again, which that whole idea of connection and collaboration are cornerstones of how Third Coast Baroque operates. And I know how you operate in particular. And so I think it's up to us as presenters of this music to help create an environment as best as we can in a digital world of that communal experience. And I think the live performance is one way that we can do that.
Yes, I definitely hope that sooner or later we will be performing live again for live listeners. I think digital is never going to replace that. I really, truly believe that. But I think that like now, it would be lovely to be talking in the same room, but this is how we are. Right. And it works also. So I think that for arts, it's very important to find what is it that make it possible that it works. There is certain things about sound quality, which is making able to transmit the quality of the music, which is happening, and the details. There are some things that we have to consider, and even compromises, like if we are doing a live performance, well, you don't want cameras to disturb. If you are doing a performance which is also going to be broadcast, and the broadcasting is very special, well, then you have to allow the cameras sometimes to take a space where they are going to be seen. It is a different way of different kind of art. And I think that especially in classical music, we are not as used to that than in other kind of music, where even everybody is holding a mobile and and streaming it live, in the rock concert. Right. So it is, yes, I'm not saying that that's great, but in any case, we have to know as classical musicians, next season is not going to be normal. I hope that it's getting more and more, but that we have to open to new ways. Absolutely.
Sure. And I want to just take a pause for 1 second. So for those of you who are watching live right now, I would love to know what you think about your experiences. I'm sure a lot of you have already watched some online streaming performances. What has your experience been like? What are some things that you've enjoyed about it? What has been a drawback for you? Is there a convenience factor about watching, streaming the Met online or whatever company is sharing their media? Let us know in the comments, like what's your take on this? And actually, while we're stopped, yeah, Rubén, if we can tilt you down just a little bit, I'm getting tilt your camera down just a little bit. You're starting to get a little low in the frame. I'm losing you. A little technical moment, my friends. Thanks. That's wonderful. Thank you. So yeah, here's my thought. I don't want to say that we should never have any digital or online experience in terms of performances, because I feel like that is a way for us to connect to people. That's how a lot of people find arts companies in general, and they want to have the ease of access in terms of getting to know the ensemble. Hi, Anna. Anna just showed up, says hello to you.
Hello.
Good to see you, my friend. But I agree. I don't think it could ever be a replacement for what we do, because there's a visceral quality of literally physically feeling this music. And I think, yes, maybe if you have a really fantastic sound system at home, like you can get a little bit of that. But I don't think it's a replacement. Our friend John Sagos has a comment that he'd like to share. He says, if I'm watching something live, I like being able to interact with the artists. It makes you feel like you're actually connected as best as possible, given the circumstances. So, this is something that physical connection, you can catch a performer's eye during a live show. You can really see the interaction among the artists. How does that feed you whenever you're performing, Rubén, during a live show, in terms of that energy with the audience?
I think that since my beginning as a musician, we're doing traditional folk music and not classical. I got so used to perform literally in a square, outside a square, and how can I say? Yes, at the street, or where the performers and the audience were all one and all together. And we always had like children dancing around us, and this division wasn't there. And I think that my dream is always to get a performance where, as much as possible, we feel that in order to make music happen, we need to have both performers and an audience being connected there. And this is also why I love to talk to people.
Yes, if anybody's come to our concerts before, you know that you will hear from Rubén throughout the evening.
Yes. It's something I love to give some context about what is going to happen, because I think that enhances the experience. But much more important than that, it is for getting people, relaxed. We are all human beings on stage and on these beautiful chairs, and getting the feeling that now together we will experience something that only can happen if everybody is there in that room.
Yeah. So much of this content right now that's out there is free. A lot of companies are offering full performances and live streaming events for free because we're all stuck at home, as they say. All of us are sort of seeking distraction or entertainment or just something else to occupy our time. And I think it's very, I think it's very good that so many arts companies are able to share so much free content. How do you think this is going to evolve over time, over the coming months, over the coming year? Do you think people are going to put things back behind a paywall or a subscription, or our audience is going to expect everything to be free at this point? What are your thoughts on that?
If I can choose, I think very much that artists should be paid for doing art, but not necessarily for finding the solutions to invent systems to get that payment. I actually think that you as a singer should just think about performing, and that if this happens digitally or on a stage, that's great, both what is ever possible, and that in a magic way, your bills should be paid. Said in other words, that I think that somebody, a professional artist, should have a regular income for being an artist. And that sounds a little bit as a utopia, but it is being discussed in several countries now. And not only for artists, some countries are discussing it like for everyone, that there should be some basic income, which then allows you to do your work and the good. No? I don't think that digital art is going to reward musicians as it should. I think that the more and more we experience when we come from the time of recording music and selling first in LPs and then selling CDs, and then all the coming of YouTube and then Spotify on the streaming, we see that always more people can enjoy art, and at the same time, always less artists get paid for doing their job. And some of my CDs, I mean, I'm not Madonna, only a few thousand people had seen my streams or my CDs. But some thousands, if I would sell some 1,000 CDs, you get some money. But of course, through Spotify, you will never get more than 5 cents. I mean, they never call to say, hey, Rubén, so many thousand people have seen have heard your music. Here are your $2.55. No, never. So I don't really believe that this is going to get better with the streaming platforms. Maybe it will for major arts with millions of people looking, but that's not the classical music. Maybe for the one metropolitan gala in a year, yes, could be. But I think that art organizations and artists will survive through their live concerts when we are able to do them, but also through the sense of community that people who support arts, and in best case, the whole society, meaning the state, start supporting arts, recognizing that they are crucial for the life, for the cultural and spiritual life of every society.
Right. And I think that is probably the one biggest difference between the arts in Europe and the arts in the United States. The arts culture in Europe is very much is primarily funded by the state, by the government. Whereas in the United States, it is very much self-funded or private funded, or funded by donations. I mean, the simple fact, Third Coast Baroque is a nonprofit organization that survives primarily on individual donations and grants. Our ticket revenue, like earned ticket revenue, is just a very small portion of the money that we take in order to support our artists. And there's a discussion here about remounting what was called the WPA, the Works Project. I'm forgetting it. The Works Project. It was the World War II. Sorry, my brain is just blanking. Anyway, it was a government-sponsored program for artists in the United States. It's very much like European model. And there's talk about reinstating something similar to that, maybe not the same thing. But, that's a question, is the arts an essential service in our society? Thank you, John. Yes. Work Progress Administration. My gosh. Wow. Anyway, always there to save the day. But yeah, it's.
Well, to be honest, I think that it will have to come to that. Mm-hmm. Exactly like I believe that public health has proven now how essential it is. Mm-hmm. And that, not only in Europe, I mean, in Argentina, where I come from, mm-hmm. many people had their private health insurance, and nevertheless, now they went to public funded hospitals because they were taking better care of them. Because mm-hmm. for the private health industry, it wasn't a good deal to have somebody for weeks there with all so much intensive care. So they weren't taking them. So it's very interesting that at the end, the states, which means all of us together as a community, because it is what provides, what makes us a society, which mm-hmm. is education, it is health, it is culture, mm-hmm. it is basic food and having a roof on your head. Mm-hmm. I think I believe very much more and more that we will rethink as a society, and if this crisis is an impulse for that, for getting together stronger as a community out of this, then I hope, it's we better learn our lessons so that it isn't for nothing that we are having this experience.
Yeah, well, and speaking of community, one of our Third Coast Baroque community members, Nicholas, is saying hello.
Oh, yay. That's lovely. Very
Good
happy.
to see you again, Nicholas. And also Allison Edwards, hello to you out there. It's good to see you. Yes, I mean, there's so much unknown right now. And for a person like me, it's hard to plan for the unknown.
Well, I think that definitely that is one of the challenges we have to know. In this, when we do arts, we plan mm-hmm. seasons in advance, mm-hmm. but we don't know if our beautiful plans for next season, are they going to happen or not, and in which form? Mm-hmm. And this is challenging our way of thinking. Absolutely. Very, very much. So I think it is really also in that term, being able to react spontaneously as mm-hmm. a community, yes, is something new that we have to learn.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there are so many different sizes of arts organizations out there. I would say Third Coast Baroque is definitely on the small side. And I think that also works to our advantage a little bit. For example, we did have to obviously postpone our April concerts, but that only involved a small chamber ensemble for that particular program. We know that Third Coast Baroque is a flexible organization that molds itself to whatever repertoire we're doing, whether it's a full orchestra or just a small chamber duo. But because, excuse me, right now, we're so nimble, we are able to adapt fairly quickly to this new situation that we're in. Yeah.
Well, big organizations adapt two, the question is if we like the way they adapt. The Metropolitan Opera, some days after this thing began, first they sent the whole orchestra home without payment first. No? So I think that the response we give as a community to this is very important, and it is going to be, of course, a challenge for everybody, for arts, for business, for the state.
Yeah.
But I think that if we are acting together, knowing that together we are so strong, and humanity has rebuilt itself so often of so many difficult things, of course it will happen this time. I am very optimistic. I only hope that we manage to get the best out of ourselves after the situation, and also artistically, because I'm sure that next time every one of us is performing in front of an audience, you know, we all have a lot of experience, but there will be no routine there. It will be like the first time. I'm looking much forward to that moment.
Well, speaking of artistic quality, another issue or topic that's popped up in these conversations about what do these organizations and performances look like after we get back into the concert hall or something like it, is the idea of local artists versus guest artists. A lot of organizations rely on flying in artists. I mean, for example, you fly from Vienna to Chicago as our director, but we also do engage a mix of local artists and out of town guests. So what's your take on that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that right now it is a great chance for every place to be able to see what is the potential that we have at home in our place in terms of arts, but also in terms of food or in terms of many things. No? So I think that it is actually something very healthy that we look into our place and say, okay, it is always fun, of course, to have people from here and from here, from there. And for arts, this having this exchange, it is always very important, always has been. This is not something modern. But I think,
what would be the value? I'm sorry, what would be the value in this kind of situation of saying, well, yes, we need to have this person come in?
I think that helping a community to develop to have enough power by itself, also in things like there are some instruments in Chicago that when we think of period performing, sometimes we don't have that many options. So we have to fly people from Chicago in, and I am very happy to do so. But if this can be a possibility to encourage musicians to take those instruments, because there are actually possibilities, because if you are good of those, then you get to play good music with good colleagues. I think that's beautiful. And also, if I am not able to fly to Chicago, for example, in September, or to whichever project, which is a possibility, then it is a chance to the ensemble to see, okay, how do we react? And if we have to perform and Rubén is not coming, how are we going to do this? Who is going to lead the performance? Or is it the whole group together without a conductor? Is it a guest conductor? Yes. So I think every problem that you have, it is a challenge to developing new qualities. And I think it's very helpful to think that way.
I think it's an opportunity to explore. I mean, how can we continue to build that community with those around us? How can we really mine the skill and the expertise that's already present even further? I was really looking forward in April to presenting this artist-led program of the Vivaldi repertoire.
It will happen.
It will. We are working on getting it in the fall. But yeah, I mean, I hope our audiences know that, we've talked about this before. We are an ensemble of soloists, but also an ensemble of leaders. Each person has their own skill at leading an ensemble, at leading a piece, that whatever they're soloing and that kind of thing. I mean, it's not just a group of folks who get together and say, okay, Rubén, tell me what to do.
Exactly. And I think that's something very, very beautiful we have as an organization. And I see a lot of potential there. This is why I am artistically not worried about Third Coast Baroque. Of course, I am worried about the well-being of every one of us and the well-being of the organization. But I think that good music is going to happen. If it's live, with a live audience, even better. If it's streaming, we will have to find a way of making it feel like we want to feel it in the intensity of the connection. And yes, we will all learn and be stronger when this is over. I'm very, very sure.
I absolutely agree. And actually, I think that's a really great place to wrap up. Unless if anybody has any questions out there before we close up for today, please go ahead and put them in the comments. We'd be happy to share them. But while we're waiting on that, Nicholas. Nicholas has a question asking if we have heard about the World Piano Day online live performances.
I haven't.
I have not. Nicholas, we're going to have to look into this. So they have people sharing performances every couple of days. Interesting. Maybe I'll have to fire up my digital piano and.
Oh yes.
So, piano was my primary instrument for years. And the other day I had an itch to get back on the keys again. And so I asked one of our board members, Yuri, for a suggestion of where to start. So he suggested Beethoven, The Tempest.
Oh, to start.
Which I did. I was no slouch as a pianist back in the day. I was pretty good, and then I hated practicing it. So
good to know. Get your basso continuo book because we may need it.
I'll have to go to my in-house tutor.
Yes, he will be delighted.
I'm sure. Well, Rubén, it has been so wonderful to speak with you today. I'm going to let you go, and we look forward to continuing our conversation. And folks, if you have any other questions, please send them our way, and we'll make sure that we tackle them next time. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening, so I love to talk about these things together. Rubén, as always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, lovely friends out there. Be safe and be happy, and see you soon. I'm looking tremendously forward.
Thanks so much, Rubén. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us once again for a TCB Tuesday while we are at home together. Today, we talked with TCB Artistic Director Rubén Dubrovsky. Wow, just great conversation every time. And thank you so much to everybody who contributed to that conversation today. We're so glad that you were with us. Just want to remind you that you can find us online in the usual places at thirdcoastbaroque.org, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. These videos are archived on all of our channels. You can find them there. And if you have any questions, you can also contact us at any of these channels. If you haven't already, I suggest that you subscribe to our email newsletter. We send them out once a week or so, maybe twice a month. And just so you can stay in the loop and find out what's going on. Also, I wanted to remind you that if you want to support Third Coast Baroque to help sustain us through this crazy time right now, to help make sure that we come out the other side and are able to continue what we're doing, you can go to thirdcoastbaroque.org/donate and give as you are able. If you know somebody who might be able to give or is interested, please share this information with them. Share this video with them. We rely on you to help share and spread the word about our community. We look forward to seeing you again next time. I'll see you on Thursday for our Third Coast Thursday. We're going to talk with board member and finance expert Frank DeVincentis. He's also an incredibly skilled bass baritone. Oh my goodness. Just really, really impressive. So I'm looking forward to that conversation with him. Please note it's at a special time on Thursday, May 7th at 4:15 p.m. Central Time. Same bat time. Well, not the same bat time, but the same bat channel. So with all of that, folks, thanks again for joining us today. As always, it's good to see you. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.